Service. I don't have a packet. Yeah.
Great.
You can.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We're in our winter setup in our new, we've changed the chairs around. Those who are in person can see. And now those who are online can see that we're in the round. We're hoping we can be this way for the foreseeable future so we can see each other's faces. And also next week we have a special service where we'll be using our screen with special music and special moments of participation. So we'll talk more about that later, but we hope that you get to see each other's faces a little bit this way and feel connected to each other during our Shabbats throughout this winter. We'll begin on page 2 as we light our candles. We invite Jocelyn Harper to lead us in our blessing. Page 2 in the prayer books.
O source of light and truth, creator of eternal love, goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all those who enter the sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts, and may our worship lead us to acts of kindness, truth, and love. Peace and love, sorry. All right.
You can blow that up.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Page 10, we gather together, blessing each other. The words Hine Matov, how nice it is for us to be together. Page 10 in the prayer book.
Hine Matov manai shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov manai shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov manai shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov manai shevet שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. שבת אחים גם יחד. שבת אחים גם יחד.
If you were to ask my kids about their week, or any other kids about their week this week, it would be something like this. On Monday, we got candy. On Tuesday, we got candy. On Wednesday, we got more candy. On Thursday, we got more candy and talked about getting a lot of candy on Friday, because that's the last day before the weekend of Halloween that we experience in Ohio, where everybody's going to give us candy. But for the rest of us, hopefully our days have been a little more varied and filled with, we pray, blessings with good friends, dialogue, relationships, people we love, and I'm sure for some of us at least, as is the case in life, challenges, hurdles, memories of those that we miss. Shabbat is about making this day a blessing, and when we turn to page 20, we recite the words of Lecha Dodi. We make a pledge that we will make this time as much about blessing as we can. Not that we forget all of the troubles we have, but at least we acknowledge that it is our job to bring joy into this day and into our lives. And so we share the words of Lecha Dodi as we welcome Shabbat. During the last stanza, we'll rise and physically welcome Shabbat into our sanctuary. Page 20.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Adodi likrat kala. B'nei Shabbat nekabela.
Page 26.
Vikada Shemei Rabba V'yomad yivrach yidurtei v'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'chayedecho Beit Yisrael Ba'agala u'bizman kari v'yimeru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba mevorach Le'olam me'omaya yitbarach Yitbarak v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitrama v'yinaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shemei l'kudusha barichu Le'ila min kol brichata v'shirata
Tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'oma v'imeru. Amen. Page 28, the Baruch.
Lai la 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 lai Lai la 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 lai Yai la 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 Yai la 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 Yai la 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 Yai la 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 Yai la 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 Yai la 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 Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam va'id HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam va'id.
Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom this evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv, Aravim. Page 32.
Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amecha ahavta Amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Le'olam va'ed Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Baruch atah Adonai Ohev amo Yisrael Ohev amo
Page 34 and 35.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto
page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ולכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Page 39, please join with me at the top of the page. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Michamocha, page 40.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע ים לפני משה, זה אלינו ואמרו, זה אלינו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה.
Page 42. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the long, soft evening shadows of your truth. Hashkivenu, page 42.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'Shalom, L'Shalom, Ehamidenu Shomeinu L'Chaim, Uvros Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha, Uvros Aleinu Sukat Shlomecha.
Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right, O Adonai. Amen. Amen, amen. Amen, amen, amen. O Adonai. Amen.
On page 46. In an envelope marked personal, God addressed me a letter, and in an envelope marked personal, I've given my answer for our most personal prayers. We rise now, page 46, as we begin our Amidah.
Adonai sifatai tivta ufi agita hilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, Eloyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chastei Avot V'imahot, U'mevi Geula Livnei V'nehem, Aman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol atah Rav LeHoshia, Mashiv HaRuach U'Marid HaGashem, Mechokel Chayim B'Chesed, Mechayeh HaKol B'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofech Olim, U'Matir Asurim, U'Mekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Michamocha Bal Gevurot, U'Mido Melach, Melech Memit U'Mechayeh, U'Matmi HaKeshua, V'Ne'eman atah L'Hachayot HaKol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol.
Atah Kadosh v'Shimcha Kadosh, Ukdoshim b'chol yom Yehalalucha Sela, Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Please be seated. On page 57, you are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. We pray that there may we find you, along with courage and insight and endurance. Let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all the world, all who seek you, may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otecha levadecha b'yirah na'avod. Page 60, Shalom Rav. Words that the greatest source of peace find its way to our world.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atah hu Melech Adon Lechol HaShalom. Ki atah hu Melech Adon Lechol HaShalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam.
V'tov b'yedecha levarech et amcha Yisrael. V'chulei t'ruvecha sham, b'shlo
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
Please take a few moments for silent meditation.
Ose shalom bimroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ose shalom bimroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ose shalom bimroma, hu yaseh shalom aleinu.
Shabbat Shalom. When I was ordained and Carrie and I found my first job and we moved, she moved from Chicago and I moved from LA. We moved to Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And like Akron, they have a minor league baseball team. And like Akron, they have an unusual name for their minor league baseball team. In Winston-Salem, the name of the baseball team is the Dash. The reason is because the dash between Winston and Salem defines not only something unique about the city, but also its history. So here's a little history. I think it's interesting. You can tell me it's not later. The history of Winston-Salem. In 1766, the town of Salem was established by Moravians, a small Christian community. They called it Salem because it comes from the Hebrew word shalom. So relying on their biblical roots, they defined their little village in 1766. Almost 100 years later, in 1849, they sold a bunch of the property to the north. It was named, not to the north, like to the north of Salem, not to the north of the country. So they sell this property that's north of their property, the northern section. And the people who lived there named it after a Revolutionary War hero, Joseph Winston, therefore born the town of Winston. A few years later, 1870, two tobacco farmers, one named Reynolds, the other is named Haynes, were shipping so much material to the area of Winston and Salem that it was declared the 8th largest port in the United States, even though it was 200 miles from the nearest sea. Eventually, Reynolds bought out Haynes. Haynes started making different products. Hopefully, you're using Haynes products more than you're using Reynolds products today. And in 1899, the United States Postal Service added a dash, the hyphen, making Winston-Salem the largest city in North Carolina at the time. The dash did not eliminate either Winston or Salem. It connected the two. They remain that way today. You can still go to a part of the town called Old Salem, and when you say you live in Winston-Salem, you say you live in Winston-Salem. And the name of the team is the dash. So what's the purpose of the dash? What's grammatically called a hyphen? According to Grammarly.com, something I imagine very few of you have used, but my kids use it every day when they write anything they write for school, this website that offers them grammar advice. When you hyphenate a word, you make a new word that doesn't eliminate either of the two previous words, but rather adds to them, emphasizes them, and often the hyphen isn't even needed. So examples that it gives are the phrase brand new. You put the hyphen in the middle, and something becomes brand new, not just a brand and new, but something together. Or prize winning. You could use the word separately, but you put the hyphen there, and it elevates the meaning as if it's almost one word with those two meanings. Or, as we might say, I'm going to watch the Browns-Bengals game. You put the hyphen. Didn't say whether you'll be happy after the game or not, but we might watch the Browns-Bengals game, and that would be hyphenated. There'd be a dash put in the middle to connect the two to say it's a single game. It's not the Browns playing or the Bengals playing, but rather both teams fully there together. It hasn't always been seen this way, and perhaps we'd say today this is the truth as well. A century ago, Theodore Roosevelt ran his campaign on the motto of America for Americans. It was followed by the 1916 campaign of Woodrow Wilson, who publicly denounced what he called hyphenated Americans, referring to German Americans, Jewish Americans, Irish Americans, and Italian Americans. In other words, there is Americans, and then there's the hyphenated Americans. In this case, hyphenated meant you were split. You had different allegiances, that actually it was subtractive. Somehow being hyphenated, being a Jewish American or an Italian American, made you less American than just those Americans. But that's not what a dash is supposed to do. It's not supposed to be subtractive if you use it correctly. It's supposed to be additive. It's supposed to connect two full things to each other. Winston and Salem didn't become half the cities they were in order to become one city. They, in fact, became a larger city that embodied both. I mention this because what we heard 100 years ago in presidential campaigns, we hear the same trope again in words that Kanye West uses, and words that people put signs over the highway in LA this week, and what's happening on college campuses. The sense that somehow the Jewish people are a singular people separate from everything else, no hyphen, not Jewish Americans, not Jewish philanthropists, but rather just those Jews over there doing those things all together, separate from us and against us, and they subtract from us, therefore we must do something about it. Which brings us to another hyphenated word, which is arguably hyphenated, still debated, anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is intended, again, not to be subtractive, but rather to say that you're against something, two things. I'm against something that is whole, Semitism, Semites. Many have argued that it shouldn't be hyphenated at all, in fact, and many have argued it should be called anti-Judaism. Because much of what anti-Semites try to do is to define what hyphenates our life as something that either takes away, or eventually what happens, as we heard this week, They drop the hyphen altogether, and they say that there's nothing else valuable, nothing else worth mentioning in these people's lives other than that they are Jewish. This is what Kanye West did last week in his comments as he declared war on the Jewish people. There's an article this week by Yair Rosenberg in The Atlantic, and he sums up exactly what I worry about in these comments that are made. It's not what Kanye West, it's not the fact that a famous person in our country says hateful things about the Jewish people. There are always going to be people who are anti-Semitic, just like there will always be people who are hateful in any number of ways, and they're always going to spurt off at the mouth and say something stupid. The problem is that becomes the only thing that the typical average person hears about Judaism. So Yair Rosenberg put it this way this week. American society lost out this week. Once more, it learned about Jews and Judaism not from Jews themselves, but through the warped worldview of their despisers. It is good that many have been reminded yet again that Jews do not constitute a clandestine cabal bent on world domination. But for anti-Semitism to be meaningfully ameliorated, society will need to learn what Jews are, not just what they are not. People will need to encounter actual Jews in all their diversity, to experience films and popular culture about how Jews live, not just how they died. Only exposure to the richness of Jewish reality can inoculate someone against the caricatures of anti-Jewish calumny. And he writes, Jews are a proud and diverse people who have thrived for millennia, and whose collective experience is far richer than simply surviving oppression. I'll share that sentence again because I think it's one we need to hear. Jews are a proud and diverse people who have thrived for millennia, and whose collective experience is far richer than simply surviving oppression. When we view Jewish existence through the lens of anti-Jewish prejudice, he says, we lose the very elements of it that have enabled the tradition to repeatedly overcome efforts to stifle it. So the problem is when an anti-Semitic action becomes the headlines, we once again have to talk in this trope about why it's not true. We have to explain what's anti-Semitic about it. And for many people, that's the only thing they're going to learn about Judaism this year or maybe even in their life. It overwhelms, overshadows all of the other ways in which our Jewish life is hyphenated. So here's what I hope we can do in response to what happened this week, but also just in general. Make sure we connect our Judaism to what we do in our life. You might be a synagogue Jew or a JCC Jew or a Jewish philanthropist or a social action Jew or a spiritual Jew, a Jewish cook, a Sephardic Jew, an Ashkenazic Jew, an African-American Jew, 2 hyphens in that one. Or we might just say, I'm a Jewish American. But we aren't just Jewish. That's not the entirety of our identity. We're far more and far more diverse. To imply that we are a unified, single-faceted people is simply to put anti-Semitic language and titles on us. It's to make our fight about anti-Semitism when that's the work the world should be doing. And so what we have to do is that work and the work of showing the world who we are, in addition to fighting all the battles that we have to fight. Second, we have to respond to people who spout anti-Semitism and give them the attention that their words deserve, but not more than they deserve. We have to respond, but in truth, and we saw this week, we need our friends to respond, our non-Jewish friends especially. We shouldn't obsess over what Kanye said. Perhaps others should, but we should trust the dashes that we have in our life, the relationships we have with other people. The response this past week to what he said has been robust. And it's robust because it's so obvious to all the people who are Jewish adjacent, as we might call them, that what he said is not accurate and it's offensive not only to their friends who are Jewish, but to them. So the dashes exist. And we have to continue to add them, the third action. Muslim-Jewish dialogue, Black-Jewish dialogue, interfaith justice series. Last night at First Congregational Church of Akron, there was a wonderful speaker on the history of anti-Semitism in Christian scriptures. And it was a wonderful gathering of our interfaith friends, and many of you from our congregation were there. But to talk about anti-Semitism as it began in the Christian scriptures some 2,000 years ago. Great learning. That's where the dash exists. That's where the conversation should be, not just in us and our kids studying the Holocaust and talking about anti-Semitism. I hope it's one of their topics, but not their only topic. There's a beautiful poem called The Dash by Linda Ellis. Some of you may know it. The first half of it reads as follows. I read of a man who stood to speak at the funeral of a friend. He referred to the dates on the tombstone from the beginning to the end. He noted that first came the date of birth and spoke of the following date with tears. He said what mattered most of all was the dash between those years. For that dash represents all the time they spent alive on earth, and now only those who loved them know what that little line is worth. For it matters not how much we own, the cars, the house, the cash. What matters is how we live and love and how we spend our dash. What is true for the dash between the years of our birth and death is also true for Judaism. It represents how connected we are, not only to each other, but to the world around us in thousands of ways. And so anti-Semitism is not going away, but it is just one hyphenated word in a sea of hyphenated words related to our people. We shouldn't ignore it, but let's make sure it doesn't define us either. Remember all the other dashes that represent us, that connect us, that protect us, that are a source of pride for our faith and our people. Shabbat Shalom. We'll stand now as we turn to our Torah service, sharing the words of Noah. I'll tell you very quickly, we had a bat mitzvah last weekend. Misha Leff read the beginning story of creation of Genesis. And one of our bar mitzvahs from last year came up to me afterwards. He said, how come she got to read this really great story about creation and I had to read about this thing called the tabernacle that nobody knows what it is? And the answer is because your bar mitzvah was in the spring and hers is in the fall. In the fall, we get our best stories. And so today, the story that's perhaps the most known story, the story of Noah. We're reading a section right after the ark has made its journey, and God says to Noah, I'll never do this again, and the world will get to start over, and you will take care of the animals, and we'll have a new society. So we turn to page 250 in our prayer books for the blessing, which we'll say together. Please join with me. Oh, let's first get the Torah.
That was good.
I was ahead of you. Sorry. We'll get the Torah first. You can kiss it and touch it, then we'll say the blessing. You were all standing so nicely.
Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Udevar Adonai mirushalayim, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah, Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadolu Adonai iti, Unaramema Shemo Yakdav, Lecha Adonai Hagedula v'hagevura v'hatiferet v'hanetzach v'hahod, Kicho b'shamayim uvaretz, Kicho b'shamayim uvaretz, Lecha Adonai hamamlacha
Shlosha Devarim. Al Shlosha Devarim. Al Shlosha Devarim Haolam Omed. Al HaTorah Be'al Havodah Be'al Gemilut Chasadim. Al HaTorah Be'al Havodah Be'al Gemilut Chasadim. Al Shlosha Devarim. Al Shlosha Devarim. Al Shlosha Devarim Haolam
Omed. You can be seated. And now, with the Torah out, we can share our blessing. Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen. Vayomer Elohim el Noach ve'el banav oto lemor va'ani hineni mekim et briti etchem ve'etzarchem acharechem ve'et kol nefesh chachaya asher etchem ba'of babhema v'chol chet ha'aretz etchem mikol yotzeti Hateva l'chochet ha'aretz v'hakimoti et briti etchem v'lo yakeret kol basar od mimech hamabul v'lo yiyeh od mabul lashavat ha'aretz.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. And God said to Noah and to his sons with him, I now establish my covenant with you and your offspring to come, and with every living thing that is with you, birds and cattle and every wild beast as well, all that have come out of the ark, every living thing on earth. I will maintain my covenant with you. Never again shall all flesh be cut off by the waters of a flood, and never again shall there be a flood to destroy the earth. With our story before us, and especially the story of renewal of human life, we turn to those who are in need of strength, and we offer them the words of Mishaberach, prayers that they find the greatest source of strength.
Mishaberach avoteinu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
If you'd like to share a name, please share aloud.
Kathy Myerson.
Sissy Hoffman.
Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu.
Please rise as we return the Torah to the Ark.
V'zot haTorah asher sa Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Yalai lai lai, yalai lai lai, yalai lai lai, yalai lai 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 lai, yalai lai lai, yalai lai lai lai, yalai yalai lai lai, yalai lai lai lai, yalai lai lai lai, yalai lai 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 lai, yalai lai lai, yalai lai lai lai. Ya la ya la 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 la. It's gonna fall. Etz chaim hi lemachazikim ba v'tomechecha meushar deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadish, Chadish Yameinu, Chadish Yameinu kekedim.
Page 282, Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latekedu la leotzer reshit, shelo asanik goye haratzot, velo samanu kamishmachot ha'adama, Shelo samchelkeinu kahem, v'goravenu kechamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu, v'nemar v'haya Adonai, lemelech al kol haaretz, Vayom hahu, yiyeh Adonai echad, u'shemo echad.
Please be seated. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone. Give them what you need to give me. Because I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. And so look for me and the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. For you can love me best by letting hands touch hands, by letting go of children that need to be free. For love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. We remember those that we've lost in these last weeks, David Cooper and Edwin Fleet. So too we remember those that we lost at this time in years past, Shlomo Adler, Dr. Guillermo Alfonso, Louis Aronson, Selma Baer, Betty Barnett, Dr. Lawrence Bateman, Leona Tobias Bernstein, Dr. Milton Cooper, Benjamin Richmond, Sidney Dambrot, Malvina Ehrenberg, Robert Ruby Fox, Silva Hirsch Gibbons, Shirley F. Gilbert, Lily Goldberg, Charles Goldman, Daniel Hyman, James Johnson, Bob Klein, Lester Kodish, Sandra Lycan-Cranus, Sheldon Lasher, Harry Lieberman, Sylvia Liverent, Louis Loeb, Jack Magalavy, Stanley Marks, Seth William Rich, Dr. Louis Silverman, Frida Stile, Albert Tobias, and Anne Lois Zoss. If there are names I mispronounced or names you'd like to add, please share them. Page 294, please rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei Rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, b'gala uv'izman kari v'imru, amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olmei olmaya, yitbarak v'yishtabach, v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shmei dekudusha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechamata, da'amiran b'alma v'imru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Having connected with those that we have loved and lost, we connect with each other as we bless each other with the words of the priests. May God bless you and keep you. May God's presence be with you and be gracious unto you. May you feel God's presence within you always, and may you find peace. Please remain standing as we'll invite Steve and Lynn to lead us in Kiddush, bless our Shabbat, and to say Motzi as well.
Oh man, not Steve and Lynn.
It's down on the bottom.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam borei pri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodesho me'ahava uvratzon inkilanu zikaron l'maaseh b'reishit Ki hu yom techilah lamikra'e kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim Ki banu v'charta v'otanu kidashta mikol amin v'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon inchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen.
Let's join together in Motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Please be seated as we invite Andrew Meerman to share a few announcements with us.
Shabbat Shalom. First, I want to thank Jocelyn for the blessing over the candles and Steve and Lynn for the bread and the wine. Thank you very much. Noah, thank you. Beautiful music, as always. I think you're here because it's the Torah portion. It was all about Noah.
It's the only reason.
See, I was listening. A couple announcements. Tying into the rabbi's sermon, there's an anti-Semitism program next Thursday at Temple Israel. Jim Pesh, if I'm saying that correctly, from the Anti-Defamation League will be here at Temple Israel on November the 3rd at 7 p.m. So please join us. It's very, very informative, and hopefully everyone can attend. And then also, if you want more information on that, there's information in the lobby. There's some flyers, and I'm sure Art Krakauer can answer any questions you might have. Sisterhood is having a craft workshop on Thursday, November 10th. So your Thursdays are booked now for the next 2 weeks. RSVP are due next week, so more details also in the lobby as well. So Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Before we close with Odivo Shalom Aleinu, I want to tell you about our new and exciting service that we're starting once a month, the first Friday of every month, called Ruach Shabbat. Ruach means spirit, and Rob Ross will be joining me the first Friday of every month, along with a special musical accompanist. So next Friday is Jeremy Sosin. And the idea behind Ruach Shabbat is to have everybody feel like you're a multi-generational community that can pray together, from little ones to the seniors in our community, and it's going to be a very teachable service. We're going to be teaching you a lot of new music. Some of the music you already know, but a lot of it you don't, and it's going to be very exciting. We'll have dinner beforehand at 5:30, and then we'll have our abbreviated service, about 45 minutes, and then we can have a to-go neg where we can all talk about how great the service was. So we hope you join us. We hope you join us next Friday evening at 5:30 for dinner, pizza and wine and other drinks, and wonderful music. So please join me and Rob and Jeremy next Friday. Thank you. And let's close with the
Odivo Shalom Aleinu.
Odivo Shalom Aleinu. Odivo Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al kulam.
Odivo Shalom Aleinu.
Odivo Shalom Aleinu. Odivo Shalom Aleinu. Ve'al kulam.
Salam.
Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam.
Salam.
Salam Aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Let's see your ruach right now.
Odivo Shalom Aleinu.
Odivo Shalom Aleinu. Odivo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam.
Odivo Shalom Aleinu.
Odivo Shalom Aleinu. Odivo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.